Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You're about to discover why a former Treasury Secretary under Obama just vanished from public life, and it has everything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump demanded the Epstein files be released. He had enough of the Democrats trying to weaponize them against him. And what happened next caught Washington completely off guard, especially on the left. The first Democrat has already fallen. Larry Summers is now withdrawing from public life in disgrace. But what you'll soon find out is that he's just the beginning of a domino effect that could reshape American politics. House Democrats thought that they could weaponize 3 cherry-picked emails against Trump, but it backfired spectacularly. Now, tens of thousands of emails are exposing a network that reaches into the highest levels of power. Oh, you're not going to want to miss this. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media, where we cut through the establishment noise and tell you what's really happening in Washington. Look, if you like our videos already and you haven't done so, you should become a subscriber to the channel. You can hit the notification bell and smack that like button because it helps us get our message out to more people, and you will be notified every time we put out a new video. And thank you. All right. So President Trump called for the Epstein files to be released. Simple enough request, right? Well, transparency, sunlight, all those things Democrats claim to love, and the reaction from Washington? It's panic. Absolute immediate panic. The shockwaves hit so fast that most people couldn't even process what they were watching unfold in real time. And here's the thing, the first Democrat has already fallen. And we're not talking about a low-level staffer or county commissioner. We're talking about Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, former Harvard president, a man who was in the inner circle of Barack Obama's administration. He's gone, resigned, vanished from public life. Now, the House passed the bill that could expose one of the most disturbing scandals this country has seen in years. After months of delays, after months of political games and maneuvering, we are finally getting a real look at what these Jeffrey Epstein files actually contain. And the revelations, they're stunning. Let me walk you through how this exactly unfolded, because it's almost too perfect to believe. This entire situation began with Democrats who thought they were being clever. They believed they could shift attention away from what people were calling the Schumer shutdown. Remember that embarrassment? So House Democrats on the Oversight Committee decided to release 3 emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Only 3, carefully selected, cherry-picked, if you will, to create the impression that Trump had some kind of connection to Epstein's inner circle. Remember, projectionism. Remember, whenever the Democrats are accusing you of, they themselves are guilty of doing. The messages revealed absolutely nothing new. Zero. They offered no connection between Trump and any wrongdoing whatsoever, as always. But here's what they did do. They gave Trump and House Republicans the perfect opening to respond with overwhelming force. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Democrats redacted a victim's name in one of those emails. You might think, okay, so maybe they're trying to show some compassion or empathy, trying to protect someone who's already suffered enough. That's what a decent person would assume, right? Well, that's not what happened. The name that they concealed, that they redacted, was Virginia Giuffre. And that matters. This matters enormously because Giuffre testified in court under oath that Donald Trump had nothing to do with any of Epstein's crimes. She stated clearly and explicitly that he was not involved in any of the sex things connected to Epstein. She said he touched no one. She said he acted like a gentleman every single time she saw him. Okay, so in a nutshell, Democrats stated they were adhering to a policy of never releasing the names of a victim in line with the wishes of the families. Republicans and the White House accused Democrats of selectively redacting the name to create a fake narrative or slander President Trump. Their reasoning was that Virginia Giuffre, while a prominent Epstein accuser and victim who made allegations against other powerful men like Prince Andrew, had repeatedly and publicly stated that Donald Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier in their limited interactions. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. The Democrats handpicked 3 emails to smear Trump, and even in that carefully orchestrated moment, they hid the one name that completely destroyed their narrative. It's typical for Democrats. They concealed the victim's identity because her testimony cleared Trump entirely. Now, think about the cynicism required to do that. Think about the calculated dishonesty, how despicable these people are. The House Oversight Committee responded by releasing tens of thousands of Epstein messages. And those files, they landed on the Democratic Party like a political bomb going off. These communications showed that Democrats, especially figures linked to Barack Obama's inner circle, had steady, frequent, direct contact with Epstein. Let me repeat that. These emails showed that Democrats inside Barack Obama's inner circle of his administration had steady, frequent, direct contact with Jeffrey Epstein. You didn't hear that on CNN, did you? And those emails have already taken down one of their own. Larry Summers, he's a former Treasury Secretary under Obama, president of Harvard University. He's now withdrawing from public life after being exposed as someone who admired Jeffrey Epstein. The messages showed Summers in frequent communication with Epstein. They showed him asking a convicted sex offender for dating advice. Are you kidding me? Now stop and think about that for a moment. Influential Democrats within Obama's orbit were turning to a known child sex offender for personal guidance. A Treasury Secretary of the United States was taking advice from a convicted child trafficker. This is the first resignation. It won't be the last, guys. The New York Times reported that Summers resigned from the advisory board of the Yale Budget Lab. He also left his fellowship at the Center for American Progress, a totally left-wing radical think tank. Their spokesperson confirmed the resignation, and it seems pretty likely that he'll eventually have to distance himself from Harvard University as well, even though he was the president. He currently is listed as a faculty member there. It's difficult to imagine a university keeping someone tied to Epstein in an institution full of young college students, right? But then again, look at all the mess that Harvard's been into lately. The fallout doesn't stop there, guys. Not even close. There's now evidence that Epstein communicated directly with Democrat delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands during a congressional hearing. We're talking about a live hearing involving Michael Cohen. Remember him? He served as President Trump's personal attorney. Stacey Plaskett, a non-voting delegate from the Virgin Islands, appeared to exchange messages with Epstein, get this, during that February hearing.
Barack Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that, attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break?
The purpose of the hearing was to pressure Cohen into saying something, anything damaging about Trump. And Epstein was apparently supplying Plaskett with questions in real time during the hearing. Jeffrey Epstein had influence inside a live congressional hearing. Let that sink in for a second. And here's where it gets even worse. Plaskett accepted $30,000 from Epstein for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee after Epstein had already been convicted as a child sex offender. She received the maximum legal donation from Epstein in the years that followed his conviction. This isn't some isolated incident, guys. This is a fraction, just a fraction of a much larger network. We're now learning about powerful Democrat donors and federal judges who actively helped hide Epstein grand jury information from public view. Why are they doing this? Well, it's all for the money. They have no scruples. They have no principles. 3 federal judges, each one appointed by Democrats, blocked earlier attempts in 2025 to release Epstein grand jury material. 1 was appointed by Barack Obama. 2 were appointed by Bill Clinton. These judges kept critical evidence out of public reach, while Democrats publicly claimed to demand transparency. So in other words, Democrats were blocking everything from coming out on Epstein, while Democrat politicians were screaming that Donald Trump wants to hide the Epstein files. He won't release them. The contradiction became absolutely undeniable when Republican Representative Tim Burchett tried to force an immediate vote to release the files. Democrats blocked the vote. Even though they had spent months arguing for openness and transparency, when it came time to actually vote, guys, they blocked it. The inconsistency was impossible to miss. Despite all the obstruction, around 100 House Republicans are expected to support the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The bill requires the Justice Department to release all Epstein files within 30 days. The only exception would be the removal of victim names to protect their identities. Speaker Mike Johnson said that he would consider voting yes if the Senate added proper protections for victims. If the bill passes in the House, it moves to the Senate, and President Trump has already promised to sign it. But this goes so far beyond any single scandal. What this exposes is a justice system that treats powerful people completely differently from everyday Americans. Now, we always knew that. We suspected it. But now here's proof. The Democrats should not have pushed this hard. It seems that they've screwed themselves. Epstein's victims wrote to Congress and described a system with a blatant double standard, a system that shields the elite while holding everyone else accountable. Under Obama and under Biden, they took innocent people and accused them of wrongdoing. It's the most familiar and infuriating pattern in American politics. Rules for the public, but not for the powerful. And the Epstein network, it reaches far beyond what most people ever imagined. LinkedIn co-founder and billionaire Democrat megadonor Reid Hoffman visited Epstein's private island in 2014. He planned an overnight stay at Epstein's townhouse in Manhattan that same year. Why? Epstein also invited Hoffman to a breakfast with Bill Gates. Hoffman later invited Epstein to a 2015 Silicon Valley dinner with tech billionaires, long after Epstein's conviction was public knowledge. Hoffman even helped direct large Epstein-linked donations to MIT's Media Lab. Holy mackerel! Because of these facts, President Trump has ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Hoffman's connections and the connections of other Democrat donors. The investigation is currently underway. Then we arrive at Bill Clinton. Flight records show Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet 26 times. 26. Clinton denies visiting Epstein's island, although witness accounts and emails, they raise serious doubts about that denial. One Epstein victim said she saw Clinton on the island with two young women. Elaine Maxwell denied that claim in her recent history, so additional evidence will be needed to settle that question. But here's the main point, and it's impossible to ignore. Democrats demanded the release of the Epstein files in public. Their own judges blocked that release in private. Now their donors, their delegates, and their former officials are being exposed to the very files they claimed to want released. They didn't want them released. They thought, look, in a nutshell, they thought that Donald Trump feared that he was in those files. And that's why Dan Bongino and Kash Patel came out in the beginning and said there's nothing left. I'm wondering if Trump set the Democrats up, if he made it look like they weren't going to release anything so that they would come out and start demanding that they get released. He releases them. Look what's happening. If the Epstein Files Transparency Act becomes law and these files are fully released, this moment could unite the Trump coalition again in a way we haven't seen since 2016. Populism grows when average citizens realize that they're facing a corrupt elite that plays by different rules. And Epstein represents the absolute center of that corruption. So let's hope Republicans follow President Trump's direction on this. Light exposes corruption. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, as they say. Release the files, arrest the guilty, allow justice to actually work this time. The time has come to hold a corrupt establishment accountable. The American people are watching to see if anyone in Washington has the courage to follow through. Look, the Epstein scandal isn't just about one man or one island or one plane. It's about a system that protects the powerful while punishing everyone else, even punishing innocent people to protect the powerful. Democrats tried to weaponize 3 emails against Trump. And instead, they opened Pandora's box on themselves. Larry Summers is gone. More will follow. But here's the bright side. This might be the moment that finally breaks through. That's when real change becomes possible. The truth is coming out, and for once, the establishment can't stop it. Justice delayed doesn't have to be justice denied forever. All right, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.